Computer. All right, here we go. So this week, what have we all learned? Adam sent a podcast to us and Simon didn't listen to it. So that kind of ruined that conversation. But Adam, what else you been on to? Well, actually just summarize that one for us right now. Because I quite liked it because I listened to it.
Yeah, I've listened to a few snips. I'll try remember. So it's like, basically the podcast was, the name of the podcast is Jacked Athlete Podcast. It's run by a guy called Jake Tura. And the guest he had on was David Gray, who is I don't even know what his actual title is, but he's like, he does rehab stuff. Yeah. And I guess you'd say he takes somewhat of an unconventional approach to rehab, and a lot of his ideas are not mainstream, but they make a lot of sense, and when he talks about it, it makes a lot of sense. They just discussed a whole range of topics, from like different breathing mechanics to different mechanics for performance, as well as rehab and all the rest of it. Anything else to add, Ryan?
No, it's pretty much, he likes talking about bones a lot, what I quite like, because
yeah, so basically a lot of his philosophy is centered around actions of bones, because all of us humans have a very similar skeletal structure with obviously small differences, but across the board, a lot of us are built the same. And then our muscles is where there's a lot of difference. So if we take the approach away from how the muscles are supposed to move and kind of look at how the bones are designed to move, then how a lot of our movements occur and the pain that comes from movements, like that approach makes a lot more sense, and diagnosing issues or treating issues.
Well, what example can you give that you didn't talk about?
So Simon really like the main examples that he was talking about. He does a lot of work with knees, but he was talking about how when you've got a knee injury and stuff like that, everyone jumps on, your glute med must be weak, your VMO must be weak. But he was kind of going into, well, why is it weak? Why have you developed one side of your glute that is one side of you that is stronger than the other? What is happening with your gait? Because it's probably something to do with how you're walking, how you're moving and stuff like that, and your movement mechanics that is creating this weakness based on reps over time, So you learned how to do something incorrectly and you kept doing it that way. Because if you break it down to your bone structure and stuff like that, yes, before people start chiming in saying, but everyone's hips can be different and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Like the reality is of it, the variations in your bone structure is not that like massive compared to the variations in muscle structure. But so your movement should realistically be the same, but it's just length of bone. It's like the attachment points, the variation is not that massive. There is obviously, everyone is different, and we say that all the time.
Really
Pardon?
What about between men and women? Was there a discussion between Q angle or anything?
No, but like the same principle applies. Like if you're like, how much difference is there between females on females and females and females versus men and men and men? If that makes sense. Not all females have like a glute deficiency. Or obviously like we know females are higher prone to ACL injuries because of the bone structure. But I think he was more talking about an over-focusing on particular muscles being weak rather than the movement itself, not like the movement contributing to over time weaknesses in one side versus the other based on how you learn to stand and stuff like that. If that makes sense. Rather than
so basically like the main discussion.
Yeah, go on.
So the main discussion was like he had chronic issues with his right knee following a motorbike accident, And then what he was saying, he basically had like a hole in his patella tendon, but didn't get it like properly treated. And he continued to play sport and then heavily favored his left leg. So he went from being a right leg dominant athlete to predominantly making cuts off his right leg, jumping off his right leg and all that kind of stuff. And then he compensated because of the pain to doing everything with his left leg. He'd compensate when he's going upstairs and all that kind of stuff. And like Ryan was saying before, like reps on top of reps on top of reps. It wasn't the fact that he had a weak glute med, which is what everyone tried to get him to work on. It was more the fact that his gait had changed and all the other issues that came along with that. And they discussed a lot more like tendinopathies and stuff like that rather than like ACLs and whatnot.
Yeah, that kind of like, so I was chatting to one of the guys that's doing his PhD in change of direction stuff. And they're talking about, you know how everyone teaches you to like a certain stance to do it? They're just like letting you carry on with the stance you normally do. So rather than 1, 2, right, like you still do 1, 2 right, but you do it in your cycle as opposed to the same cycle everyone should use.
Yeah.
And can you dive into that a little bit deeper, Simon? Because people aren't going to understand that.
So, I don't know, like when you go and do a lot of courses and you go and learn running mechanics, everything is done with ladders, hurdles, all those types of things. So you're getting taught a set pattern that's not really relevant to your current gait or your movement capacity. So instead, he's saying is you still got to learn to for change of direction. So that is like running in a straight line and then going left or right or turning back and going. He's talking about running straight, and when you do change of direction, rather than doing like putting all the load through your leg that you use to change direction, you kind of transfer the energy earlier. So
he's confused himself.
Yeah.
Are you talking outward pressure move to change your direction, or are you talking step over?
Change the direction, not step over.
Yeah. So not stepping through on your other foot to try and break that force and then pushing off.
It's also with the progressions rather than like with the return to sport, rather than doing the set technique, you go back to your normal technique where you focus on the load that you put through the joint as opposed to changing the technique completely to rehab it.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's like been multiple studies and stuff on change of direction and looking at the muscle firing patterns, and it comes down to if you play a sport, you're never going to change the direction exactly the same twice because there's so many factors that go into it, like defenders, like the objects manipulated the ball and that kind of stuff. So they've done studies where there's like pre-planned like change of direction and the muscle firing patterns in that versus when they have to react to some sort of stimulus, the muscle firing patterns of that. So when you're particularly in like a rehab and return to play setting, you need to have that reactive kind of stuff to train that, because realistically the pre-planned stuff's almost never going to happen.
It depends which way you want to go. Some people like the pre-planned rehab, like pre-planned movement.
The pre-plan needs to be there to start with, being the
so it's a question of when you're implementing it. So like you're obviously going to have your pre-planned stuff to reteach the movement mechanics because you can control the variables. Like you can control the speed, you can control the directions. There's a pre-planned determination movement, so you can reteach the pattern. There's no point going into a chaotic movement changes straight off if you haven't relearned how to do that, because that's, like, in my opinion, that's risk over reward. That's way out of scope.
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about, because there is no there is no set change of, like, no one is ever going on a 45-degree angle out.
Yeah.
Well, you might do, actually. So I couldn't say never, but there's a lot of different scenarios that are going into that.
Yeah. And then also, like, when people try to change technique and stuff, obviously in some situations, some people's technique might have resulted in the injury, but the reality is there's so many other factors that go into the injury that, you know, it might have just been a freak accident and it wasn't their technique to blame. There was, you know, how fatigued were they? Did they not sleep well the night before? Did they not have poor recovery that whole week? And was that the reason they got injured? Or was it their poor technique and everyone's so quick to blame that poor technique?
But you should still fix poor technique.
Oh, yeah. But
like if you've got poor technique, you should probably still look at that. So like we're a lot of stuff that like we've done over the years with swimming, like, you know, we're talking long lever lengths and stuff like that. That definitely needs to be fixed, but don't fix it just before your competition, for God's sake. Like just before Roto, don't try and change your technique. Try and build that in.
Yeah.
A couple of months beforehand, so you can rebuild the muscle fibers up to recognize that. But yeah, there is a million factors, but you've got to think about the factors that you can really control as well.
Going back to this podcast, then, what were some of the main exercises or strategies this guy was putting in place?
So one of the main exercises he uses is like a single leg, it's sort of like a glute bridge, but it's very hamstring focused. I mean, what would you call it, Ryan? Have you seen it?
Yeah, so it's on a wall. So he does the glute bridges on the wall, toes, not heels.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just do heels. What I like.
Yeah. So if this is the wall and this is the foot, like it's kind of pressing like that, and then it'll be like, and he'll try and mimic the positions that you would be in at like running. So the knee angle's quite large. And it's very hamstring dominant.
The thing I really liked in this is how he does isometrics and how he explains the isometrics. So like a lot of the time isometrics can be done just in like the hardest position possible, but I really like the way he broke it down into running. So he was like, you're running, if you want to run first, like fast, you want a hip extension rather than, you know, quad
extension
dominant
before knee extension.
Yeah, you want that firing pattern, and it's sequential movements and stuff like that. So if you go into the biomechanics of it, like of course, but everyone kind of like stamps there through their quad, and I really liked that thought of people holding in isos with a large knee angle, and then just pushing through the hamstring and the glute. I really liked it.
It was also like getting the hamstring and the calf to work together as well.
Yeah.
That's why it's so focused on the ball of the foot rather than pressing through the heel. And that again comes to like when you play sport, how often are you actually like pressing through your heel? Most of the time you're going to be on the balls of your feet.
So like a split squat with your front foot, like the ball of your foot only.
Yeah.
On something.
Yeah. Stuff like that. What I quite like, because it's something that's quite like different from, I don't know if he does, like, I assume that he's still doing the other variations, but it's a very good variation that he's just brought to, you know, an audience, like saying, look, you need to do this as well.
And he does really like kind of like hamstring sliders, but he'll place like your foot on like a ball or a foam roller, and same thing, you'll be in that extended position and you're just kind of rolling back and forth, almost oscillating, just in that oscillating in that end position, really engaging the calf and the hamstring, like same focus of having the ball of the foot on that ball or foam roller, kind of rolling back and forth. That's like another progression from the isometric.
How you going, Simon? I can't see your eyes, so I can't tell if you're hungry or not, because you've got your big gangster sunnies on.
I'm getting ready to train.
Is this you getting ready to train? Sit in a shady position in like, Adam, on the other on another thing. Like, I liked your post about sunlight the other day. That was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some phobia.
Yeah. I might share that with the group actually. And then,
I liked that a lot. It's something that we've been recently diving into in terms of like own studies and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I read. It came up in one of the books I was reading, and then I dove into a couple of studies of it, and I knew like obviously the beneficial effects of sunlight to some extent, but I learned so much more. Like I had no idea the protective effects that it had on like a whole bunch of cancers, like lung, colon, breast, and then one of the studies was showing the percentage of mortality from like skin cancers is like next to nothing compared to all the illnesses and mortality as potentially as a result of like insufficient exposure.
In saying that, don't be an idiot and cook yourself in the
Yeah,
sun.
well, that's the main thing is it's non-burning exposure.
Yeah, Annika's just was. What did you just say? You said something smart.
Adam did specify non-burning sun exposure.
Oh, she's on your team. Yeah, non-burning sun
exposure. That's what I just said. And that's when it comes down to like all the people who do end up with skin cancer. It's because they've spent cumulatively hundreds of thousands of hours in the sun, and you look at those people down at the beach that are just lying there for hours on end. But literally, like one of the studies said, literally you need to get outside, expose your arms, legs, face for like 15 minutes, depending on the time of the year. Obviously, this was like during summer, and depending on the latitude that you're at. But 15 minutes a few times a week, and then you'll get reasonable amount of sun exposure. It doesn't have to be
probably your skin tolerance as well is probably a big
factor.
So
like obviously there's so many factors that come into it, like your skin color as well. Like the lighter you are, the less you need.
For example,
Ryan doesn't need any.
I'm getting mine just from the reflection coming off the bricks.
And then obviously the time of year. So like obviously in summer you won't need quite as much as you would in winter. And then age as well. The older you are, the more you need. Because your body's not as efficient as.
It's like a shitty double-edged sword where it's like if you have more melatonin, you have more vitamin D.
Hang on. I've got Annika telling me intelligent things.
So talking about the melatonin thing.
It's like a shitty little double-edged sword.
Can you hear this?
Yeah.
Oh, they can hear. Come. Just
no, I don't want to listen.
No, because I'm not going to be able to repeat what you're saying.
Wait,
so if you want,
I can hear what she's saying.
Melatonin, you can obviously take more sun exposure, but when you have more melatonin, you absorb more vitamin D, so you don't actually need that much sun exposure. But if you don't have a lot of melatonin, you need quite a lot of sun exposure to get enough vitamin D. But because you don't have a lot of melatonin, you can't handle a lot. So it's like if you're pasty, you kind of just does.
Yeah. So all in all, we should stop having these calls when Annika is near because she makes us look dumb.
No, so basically, like one of the other things as well is
Simon doesn't say anything. We should just we should replace Simon for Annika in these calls. She contributes.
So like sun exposure has such an effect on your mood as well. So when you have that sun exposure, it also boosts serotonin. And then serotonin at night is converted into melatonin, which makes you sleep better. So the more serotonin you have during the day, the more melatonin it will convert at night once it gets dark. And then you have better quality sleep. And so that's kind of like the stuff that Annika was going into.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Yeah, I like a bit of sun. I used to be terrified of the sun. I used to have big sun phobia. And then I realized
you are pretty white.
You know what flipped it for me? Because I used to burn in cloud, yeah? But you know what flipped it for me? I used to, back in my youthful days when I was here we go, another Ryan story. I was a bit of a larrikin going around the place with unhealthy habits. And you'd wake up the next day and you wouldn't feel too good about yourself.
Yeah.
Me and my mates used to do this. We used to go and photosynthesize ourselves. Obviously, we can't photosynthesize. I'm not a plant, but I'd always feel much better after a little bit of sun exposure in the morning as you wake up.
Well, one of those that goes and passes out at the beach and wakes up 4 hours later.
No, because I'm too scared of the sun to fall asleep. So I'd go get some salty sun. Salty sun would be another thing that we'd go do. Because you always feel much better after you've been in the ocean.
Yeah.
That fresh salt water just frees you up again until another 4 hours the next half an hour where you feel terrible again. But it's good to get you back on the horse, you know?
Yeah.
All right, Simon, what have you learnt this week? Come on. Did he even move?
This
or
week or yeah.
What I've learned is that Simon doesn't know what max effort is.
Oh.
You calling me out?
I'm calling you out. Simon, you can plank for longer than 56 seconds.
I got bored.
Put like something on to watch on your laptop or something if you get bored.
Well, I guess I'd learn about myself. I've got a lot of work to do on some of these exercises because I like sticking in the 3 rep range.
Simon.
Have you done your split squats for that?
Yeah, he has. He did 80 on each side.
I did 88 leg.
What have you done?
He
hasn't done yet.
Public holiday, mate. I don't train.
So,
I rest on a public holiday. I do my normals. I've been to the beach. I've gone for a walk. What else do I do? And then I've been, doing some pottering around the office. What is my world now? Because I'm an influencer. So the world is now my office. So I've been pottering around the office.
Very nice.
But yeah, actually, something I would like to bring up. I just want to reaffirm how good sleep is and how much of how good it is for just anything. So I reckon I've probably dropped to a couple of skinnies, Simon, even over Easter. You want to know why? And I've been eating and I've been, enjoying my little break time, but I'm looking pretty lean today, and I'm putting it down to
sleep,
a good bit of sun exposure and not being the pasty white man that I am, getting in some good old sleep in and sucking on the waters. So basics first, boys and girls, basics first.
Like,
for people who don't
what was that?
The tan's just giving you some shape, like contours.
Yeah. Well, if Blair Evans once said at a soon WA meet, in front of the Sun Smart banners, if you can't tone it, tan it. So there you go.
Love that. But back to the sleep thing. For people who don't think sleep is important, if you think of it from like an evolutionary point of view, like it really doesn't make sense for an animal like us to spend 1/3 of our life like passed out, completely vulnerable. And if that doesn't like signify that there's some extreme level of importance to sleep, then I don't know what will.
Are you saying that we should sleep less or sleep more? Or
sleep more, like. So if you sleep 8 hours,
I'm going to eat. You just said if I sleep, I'm going to get eaten.
No, Ryan, you don't get the point. No, so what I'm saying is like as we evolve, right? We're like so back in the hunter-gatherer days, once it gets to nighttime, like humans are pretty vulnerable animals. Like don't have a lot going on for us. We have pretty poor night vision, all the rest of it. But yet we still prioritize the fact that you needed to sleep.
We have fire. Fire is pretty important.
Yeah. No, but you're not getting the point.
No, I'm just being an idiot. Yeah, I do get what you mean.
You get what I mean? Like,
yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, if sleep wasn't important to us, we wouldn't have evolved to spend 1/3 of our life asleep. And yeah, it's one of the most important factors for weight loss. It's like the number one thing for recovery. It literally like will contribute to fixing just about all of your problems.
Yeah, I like sleep. Sleep is important. I've been saying it for years.
Anything to add, Simon?
I wish I could sleep.
Simon's just sitting there just like, I forgot what sleep is.
I had some good sleep last week, actually, because I wasn't setting an alarm. So I was just waking up.
Another thing that I forgot how important it was, and something that I miss at my house because we don't have the curtains that we would want. But like at Annika's place, because we've been staying at Annika's place for the last couple of days, because the internet's better and we're socially hiding up north. The curtains here are amazing. You get no light in that room at all, and that is such a big thing. Just
maybe we should like point out like a few of the main factors that lead to better sleep, or some of the most important things that you should control in order to.
Okay, I'll go first. Make sure it's a dark room. Don't be an idiot. Or don't make it. I'll do two things. Temperature of the room. Cold is better.
Yeah. So there's been multiple studies that show that in having a dark room and temperature is probably the two most important factors in terms of sleep. So even just like a small light can disturb you a little bit. So the darker, the better.
Yeah. Don't eat chocolate just before bed. Not even a joke. I get funky dreams if I have chocolate before bed.
Yeah, right. Well, ideally, you don't want to eat
cheese. I thought cheese is what gives people funky dreams.
Yeah, I've heard that one as well.
Nah, chocolate. Cheese doesn't affect me. Cheese is all right. I've eaten cheese. I eat cheese. Cheese can be a midnight snack sometimes. If I get a bit peckish during the night, go get the bag of cheese.
Well, ideally, you don't want to eat like a big meal or anything like around 2 to 3 hours before bed. That sets yourself up as well.
You want that digestion period like to started happening beforehand, not for any reason like you're going to lose more weight if you don't eat that much, but you might. I don't know. I'm not that in tune with that kind of stuff, but I don't think it really matter anyway. But yeah, just so your digestion is already started. So when you go to sleep, your body's not working really hard to digest stuff when it should just be focusing on recovering.
Yeah. What else we got? So what do we listen so far? Temperature, light in the room, eating before bed.
A big bed, so your partner and your dogs are nowhere near you.
or just send your partner off to Sydney. Yeah, well, yeah, the big bed is good. The big bed is good, especially when you're Simon, you got 2 dogs and Heidi just taking up all the space.
Isolation.
You what?
Yeah, isolation all the time.
Isolation, separate beds. Simon's up for separate beds. What have we done? Darkness, temperature,
dark room,
food before,
room.
Comfort.
Light, like the light exposure you take in. So like try avoid using your phone too close to bed.
Yeah, that works for me. I'll fall asleep holding my phone, watching something. 2 minutes, I'm out. I can't do it.
Yeah, but that's because you're exhausted and you have 4 hours of sleep a night, Simon. That has nothing to do with the fact that you're watching something.
It's just you switching off. You just need to learn a better habit to turn your brain off. That's it. You just need to like figure out a healthier habit than watching Netflix to swap your brain off. That's it. That's all it is. It's not because of the funky lights coming off the phone. It's because it's the only thing that you actually switch off from.
It's the quality of your sleep as well, Simon. Like you might fall asleep straight away, but it doesn't mean you're sleeping well if you have that light exposure.
Look at us just giving Simon a bit hard time.
Yeah. Another tip is early in the morning, get natural sunlight into your eyes. So this helps set your body up to know that it's morning. And the closer you do that to sunrise, the easier you'll find it to fall asleep, because your body will go, okay, this is morning, and then it transitions into night, and then that sets yourself up for secreting serotonin in the morning, which then converts into melatonin at night, which is one of the most important chemicals for sleeping.
So you're saying wake up before the sun comes up and then watch it come up.
Before, but if whatever time you wake up in the morning,
just go straight outside
in your eye.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that helps set your circadian rhythm. And
I'm just up early anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so obviously for you, like, it doesn't really matter. But for someone who might tend to sleep in a little bit longer, or I mean, even if you get up early, you still want to get some form of light through your eyes to signify to your body that it is like morning.
Cool. Well, on that, because I'm astounded by that bit of new knowledge, I think that's probably enough, because Simon said his two words for the chat, and I don't want to push him too hard. I did message Jules just beforehand if he wanted to jump on and offer his 2 cents, but he said he was in Stella's pool and we should contact him earlier. So I said I'll give him some heads up. I'll give him heads up for next week. What is also my bad, because I did message him, like, I was like, who could get back to me first, Simon or Jules? And he did get back to me first. He was just like, I'm in a pool. So, all right, guys. All right, good. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. If anyone does watch these things, I enjoy having them. Adam gets to show us how smart he is, and Simon gets to sit in the shady part of his house with the sunnies on. So, everyone,
you're wearing your sunnies, Simon. There's no sun in your eyes.
Hey?
It makes him look cooler. He's the puppet master, don't you know? All right.
Sunglasses are my natural attachment.
Stay strong, stay safe, stay connected, be formidable.